you worked at Fox for 16 years. What do you make of the fact that Fox viewers won't hear a retraction or an apology outright?
I consider this a win for Fox. I consider it a win for Dominion, as he just said. They get a lot of money and it helps their checkbook. I don't know that it helps their reputation, because if Fox never has to make a correction or a retraction, how is it going to help their reputation when they were disseminating disinformation to Fox viewers? So now they're not going to make a correction on air to Fox viewers. So I'm not sure how it's going to help Dominion's reputation, but I think that it's a win for Fox. The fact that Fox doesn't have to he kept saying they have to take accountability. Yeah, they're not doing that publicly on air. This statement is the most weak sauce. They find that there are certain claims. They don't even say that Fox made the claims. Certain claims to be false. They're not saying that they lied. They're saying to be false. Sometimes false statements are made. That's not intentional.
And there's a difference between false and knowingly, right? Which is the standard, exactly.
My colleague Jim Rutenberg at the Times reported earlier, I'm just reading it here, that under the terms of the settlement, Fox News will not have to apologize or admit to spreading false claims on network programming, according to a person familiar with the details. So that gets exactly what Allison is talking about. That, I'm sure Fox views this as a win for Fox too, because the amount of money, while painful, is far less painful for Fox and for News Corporation than it is for many other entities, certainly than for Sidney Powell or for Rudy Giuliani or a lot of other people who are facing suits. And if, the lawyer's point was, if we wanted to go to trial, we wanted to, sort of hold people accountable. If you're not demonstrating that in open court and you are making a deal by which Fox does not have to admit wrongdoing, then I'm not really sure what they did other than get a lot of money. And a lot of money is something, but it's not everything.
It's worth noting that, too, because the peddling of the lies continues, right? I mean, you heard...
That's my big question here. I mean, Donald Trump is the front runner for the nomination again. So what does this look like for the next year?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
The problem, though, I mean, there is what we, quote unquote, the court of public opinion wants to hear, and the drawn out conclusions and testimony of the top anchors. And then there's the goals of the actual litigants. And I think there is a disconnect between the two. You saw Gretchen Carlson's tweet where she was begging, don't settle. Essentially, she wanted to have them take the stand because she wanted to see this play out and have the very confirmation of accountability in that format and have truth really be on trial and in the best interests of Dominion. And so that disconnect, I think, is what he's speaking to as a litigator. Essentially, look, that may be the goal of the court of public opinion, and this being really the illustration of accountability since the post-election lies. But for them as lawyers, they don't want to be in trial, handing over their case to 12 members, which, the lawyer in me is saying, I understand. Our client said it was a failure if she went to trial.
But then why then did Fox not settle this earlier, right? This has been going on for 2.5 years, right? And I think that was another point Gretchen Carlson made. And they had to pay out all of this money, and they did not have to do the on-air apology, according to the statement, according to the New York Times reporting. But they did release this statement, this weak sauce statement, as Allison rightly points out. So why didn't they do this earlier?
Well, legal experts I've been talking to say they absolutely should have, because they would have avoided so much embarrassment leading up to the trial and all of these pre-trial hearings and in the discovery. One other thing I wanted to know, I asked some of my sources, in addition to an apology, should they be required to issue a retraction or any corrections? Because it's one thing to not want to apologize for doing things wrong, but as journalists, when we get things wrong, we have to issue a correction and at least make people aware.
Exactly, so and they're saying that, right? Because that's how you know it's a journalistic institution. And so when they say
they're the highest journalistic, they have the highest journalistic standards.
That is not
if you did, then you would issue a retraction.
That is not part of the deal.
The lie.
And in fact, what the statement says is we acknowledge the court found this. So, which is literally as correct. It is literally as
very lawyerly.
Factually precise to what the judge did and what the court did without actually saying, and we agree and we recognize there's no ownership of it.
So then what do we do as we look forward, right, what this means, and kind of going back to what we were talking about, if Trump is the nominee, right, how he is the front runner, he's going to continue to spew these lies about the 2020 election, right? I mean, how does this play out?
There was, at least until recently, a noticeable decline in Trump's visibility on Fox. And that had been going on for weeks, and months. There had been this clear interest in Ron DeSantis from the entire Rupert Murdoch empire. That has shifted somewhat in recent weeks as Ron DeSantis has made some self-inflicted errors. And you saw Trump do a Sean Hannity interview. You saw him do a Tucker Carlson interview. But he's not on whenever he wants to be the way he was. He's not phoning in to every show the way he was. Will that still happen if the audience demands it? I don't see anything that has changed in what their market planning is. But I do think that there is probably going to be some internal edicts on don't just let him say whatever he wants on air. And I think that Trump's own advisors are impressing on him, this is a loser for you. So he continues to say these things on Truth Social, which has a rather small following, and he's not really doing it elsewhere.
But see, what can't happen, though, I know, Allison, you can speak this, obviously, in this notion, it can't have this juxtaposition between, look, if the edict is you can't just let the lies go unchallenged, and you put someone in who's kind of a straw person to say the opposite, almost the devil's advocate that's there in a staged position just to say, see, we presented an alternate argument here. Because the audience itself does not seem to have the appetite to even have covered this trial. It's not as if they're going out of their way to cover the Dominion trial right now. They're going to try to spin it in any way. And so the question will be going forward for journalists, will it be enough when you are aware or have some basis to know that what is being said is false? Is it enough just present a prop scarecrow to essentially
I'm so
say that's
glad
it?
you're bringing that up because I don't think they're going to fact check Trump. I don't think they're going to stop his lies.
I don't think they're going to fact check him. I also don't think they're going to give him open mic night. That's all I'm saying.
The reason that I think they may still give him open mic night is because here there was a clear victim. So Dominion was the victim of the lies. When Donald Trump just spews his lies, if he's not going after, say, Dominion or Smartmatic, there is no victim other than
good point.
democracy.
That's a good point.
And, truth.
Right, defamation against democracy. But where's the victim? You're so right, and I'm so glad you made that point. Thank you all. Really appreciate the conversation.